We have multiple surprising updates surrounding this Miami Heat team, including injury updates to Andrew Wiggins, Norman Powell, and how Bam Adebayo has just entirely flipped the script on this Miami Heat team. We'll break down all of that on this episode of Heat Digest. But first, please do remember, scroll down and click that subscribe button, as nearly 90% of you guys watching this video are not currently subscribed. We do appreciate the love and support, so now let's get to it and break down these major Miami Heat updates. As, again, we have multiple injury updates surrounding key starters for this Heat team, as well as the return of Tyler Herro, how things looked with him, and how Bam Adebayo has really been the focal point for this Miami Heat team since he has returned from that toe sprain he suffered just a few weeks ago against the Denver Nuggets. So to start, we'll start with the injury report given to us by the Miami Heat Twitter account just yesterday, as they go on to say injury update. Norman Powell with his groin is listed as probable to play in tomorrow night's game, which is an NBA Cup game against the Milwaukee Bucks. Jovic, Wiggins, Drew Smith, and Jaime Jaquez Jr. are still all listed as questionable. Jovic is dealing with a hip injury. Wiggins also with a hip injury. Drew Smith, a left hip contusion. And Jaime Jaquez Jr., right hip tightness. A bit odd that you have four players, all four of them being key players for your Heat organization. And all four of them are dealing with hip injuries in one way or another. It's very, very odd, but again, it is what it is. It's very earlier in this NBA season, and you just have to deal with it. Things are going to happen. There's going to be a few roadblocks. There's going to be a few bumps in the road. You just have to continue to persevere and continue to play good level basketball like the Heat have up to this point, ranking third in the Eastern Conference, 12-6 overall, only behind the Raptors by one game, and obviously the Detroit Pistons, who are running away with the Eastern Conference up to this point, which couldn't be more surprising than anything else, sitting at 15-2 at this point in the year. It's been an exciting and different NBA season up to this point, and the Miami Heat have done a damn good job at remaining competitive, as they have won 5 consecutive games, their most recent win coming against the Dallas Mavericks, where Tyler Herro made his return to the NBA, where things didn't start as great as anyone hoped, and there was a bit of just a lack of experience this season, and just this being his debut game, it felt like things started a bit slow for Tyler Herro, especially offensively, but he turned things on. In 29 minutes, he produced 24.7 rebounds and no assists, which is insane. He had 3 steals with a plus-minus of +16 while shooting 12 of 18 from the field. He did not make a single one of his 3-point shots. He only took 2, by the way, and he did not turn the ball over with 2 personal fouls. Overall, a pretty damn good game. 7 defensive rebounds from Tyler Herro is something the Miami Heat will take any single time they are able to get it, because, well, rebounding is a very, very, very important thing the Heat struggled to do at a high level. But with Tyler Herro back, if he's grabbing anywhere close to 7 rebounds a game, things are going to be great in Miami. I will say, do not get accustomed to seeing Tyler Herro with 20-plus points and 0 assists. That is not going to happen frequently this season. I am very surprised it happened even once this NBA season, especially in his first NBA game, where he may be looking to just find his groove again. He simply just fell right into it, without a doubt. And you see the shooting percentage, 12 of 18 from the field, not making a single 3-point shot, and shooting 66% from the field. Tyler Herro shot 8 of 9, I believe was the number, 8 of 9 on floaters in the lane, being able to get to his spot on either the left-hand side of the painted area or on the right-hand side of the painted area, just off the block. His ability to do that from just inside the free throw line and get up a one-handed floater, get it over the tall trees in the painted area and knock it down either off glass or just simply with a soft touch off the rim is really, really, really impactful. And we saw that in that first game against Dallas, where Herro is able to score just at a pretty decent clip, especially playing alongside guys outside of Norman Powell and Andrew Wiggins, as both of those guys were out in that game. And Tyler Herro needed to be able to pick it up in that first quarter where he was active. You really were kind of see him trying to find his way back. It felt like every jump shot was just a bit short. Even in the mid-range, it felt like things were just a bit short or just a bit long, and it felt like he was just trying to get things comfortable and acclimated again. He ended up doing so, and he found something that worked, and that was easily the floater, and he relied on it all game long. Now to continue, why did Norman Powell not play? Well, the game prior, in the game against, my memory is lacking. Where did I put that? Against the 76ers, Norman Powell left that game with a groin injury. He walked off the floor, he walked towards the end of the bench, and he was kind of favoring that left side. It felt like he was kind of like waddling almost, and you could see his hand down near his wasted area. It didn't look like he was in a bunch of discomfort, but you could tell he wasn't feeling 100%. He walked down to the end of the bench, hung out for a few seconds, then went back to the locker room where he was being checked out. We ended up learning that it wasn't a severe groin injury, but there was some discomfort to Norman Powell that was really going to put Miami and this Eric Spoelstra and the rest of this Heat organization in a position where they didn't want to force him back, didn't want to force him to play and be productive and on the floor in games in the opening 15 games of the season. There was no reason to rush him. If you're not feeling great, if there's something tweaked, if something's not working, take your time, step off, we'll figure things out. We're still going to beat the 76ers because our team is better than their team, and we produced 127 points. If you go on to that quote, where did I put it? Eric Spoelstra, from Brady Hawk. Eric Spoelstra says the level of concern on Norman Powell's injury isn't high. There wasn't a setback. More about the back-to-back. So again, alluding to the back-to-back the Miami Heat had to play from the 76ers, then following that, in the following day, play the Dallas Mavericks, and having to travel from Philadelphia back home to Miami, not trying to force Norman Powell. Again, it is early. It was only the 15th, 16th game of the NBA season. There is no reason to force your star player up to this point in the season to continue to play. Now, we move on to a few things. The first one being the overall play of Bam Adebayo and how he has returned from that foot-toe injury suffered in the Denver Nugget game, how things have changed so drastically. Obviously, he went down, and once he did, there was 5 straight games where Miami gave up 125 points per game. Following his return, Miami has given up 0 games of 125 points to opponents, and also they're winning the rebounding battle by plus 12. That is unheard of. Miami is legitimately the 30th ranked offensive rebounding team in the association. That is dead last. They are 26th in defensive rebounding. That is 4th worst. And for the entirety of things, I believe they are 29th in total rebounds per game. That is literally second to worst in the entirety of the association, regardless of conference, division, it doesn't matter. That is not going to get the job done. But with Bam Adebayo back and Kel'el Ware playing the way he has up to this point, this Miami Heat team should be feared amongst the rest of the NBA, and a lot of people are starting to acknowledge it. Not only is Kenny Beckham, but also Kendrick Perkins and other notable guys who are covering the game of basketball, whether if they were former players or, again, just analysts and insiders, if you will. There's a lot of praise for Eric Spoelstra and Kenny Beckham, who is very, very talented at what he does, and he has been just put on a very, very appropriate platform, if you will. He is very educated. He is very knowledgeable when it comes to the game of basketball. In doing so, he's been put on a spotlight where the things he say actually matter across the board, and people really consider what he says as very important. No surprise, because he's accurate in what he says. But he goes on to praise Eric Spoelstra and claim that this is the year that he absolutely should win Coach of the Year, at least up to this point. And I couldn't agree more. How does Eric Spoelstra, one of the greatest top 15, top 10 greatest coaches in the history of the game of basketball on the professional level, not won a Coach of the Year up to this point? This is the year. This is absolutely the year. Despite looking this different from every other team in the association, if you don't know how to read this chart, it shows you year after year after year after year after year up until that fall all the way right column, if you will. You see the little circle on the bottom right. That's the Miami Heat. Everyone above them is the rest of the league. And you can see where the averages really sit. And it's been fairly consistent from the years. I believe that's the last 10 years. What is that, 2016? So the last 10 years of basketball. It's been relatively consistent where the majority of these teams sit in the sense of how many pick and rolls they run per game. if you look at Miami this season in comparison not only to this year, but any of the years past in the last 10 years, they are playing a different brand of basketball than we have seen in the last decade plus. And it is working at a level no one could have anticipated. The speed in which they're playing with, the lack of half-court sets they're involving, and the lack of plays overall in the sense of pick-and-roll offense they are running is unheard of, especially in the last 10 plus years, and it is working better than anyone could have anticipated, as they are the number one scoring offense in the entirety of the league, while also playing the fastest across the board. It is a lot of fun to watch, and now with Tyler Herro and the rest of the gang finally returning and hopefully getting to full 100% capacity, this team is going to be even more scary once everyone returns. Let me know down below your overall thoughts and opinions on this Miami Heat team up to this point, and let me know if they can continue this success. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one.